Our lesson recounts the marriage of Boaz and Ruth, a Moabite widow. The scripture highlights the significance of Ruth's inclusion in Jesus' genealogy. These events occurred during the period of the Judges, a time marked by social instability, religious decline, and recurring foreign oppression. Yet, amid this chaos, the story of Ruth presents a tale of loyalty, redemption, and God's providence. Ruth's status as a foreigner underscores the openness of God's plan to include outsiders into his covenant. At that time, the Israelites were a people deeply tied to their tribal and ethnic identity. Moabites, as non Israelites, were viewed with suspicion, and under Jewish law, they were excluded from the assembly of the Lord. Despite this, Ruth's loyalty to Naomi and her faith in the God of Israel bring her into the family line of Israel's greatest king, David. Jesus' genealogy is traced through David back to Boaz and Ruth, illustrating God's sovereign plan across generations. Luke's genealogy serves as a theological reminder that Jesus, as the Messiah, fulfills the promises made to Israel, and through his lineage the nations are blessed. We begin with Boaz publicly declaring his intention to redeem Elimelech's land and take Ruth as his wife. Boaz's actions reflect the concept of the kinsman redeemer, an essential aspect of Jewish customs. This role involved a close relative stepping in to preserve the family line and property of a deceased relative. By redeeming Ruth, Boaz not only preserved the lineage of Elimelech, but also fulfilled a deeper divine purpose in ensuring that the Messianic line would continue through this union. Boaz's selflessness and commitment to God's law make him a foreshadowing of Christ, who would redeem humanity through his sacrificial love. The elders and people bless Boaz, invoking Rachel and Leah, the matriarchs of Israel, and comparing Boaz's future offspring with the house of Perez, son of Judah and Tamar. These blessings tie Ruth's story into the broader narrative of Israel's history. By mentioning Rachel, Leah, and Tamar, the text highlights God's ability to work through difficult, even scandalous situations to bring about his purposes. Tamar, like Ruth, was involved in a situation of levirate marriage, and her story, though complicated, ultimately led to the birth of Perez, another ancestor of David. This blessing reflects the Jewish value placed on family legacy and God's providential care. In these verses, the birth of Obed is presented not just as a personal blessing to Ruth and Boaz, but as a continuation of God's redemptive plan. The women of Bethlehem praise Naomi, emphasizing that Obed is not only a son to Ruth, but also a restorer of Naomi's family line. Obed would become the grandfather of David, Israel's future king, firmly establishing Ruth's significance in biblical history. The birth of Obed represents more than just an individual blessing. It is part of a larger divine narrative that would culminate in the birth of the Messiah. Luke's genealogy also traces Jesus' lineage back through David and Boaz, highlighting the fulfillment of the promises made to Israel. In this genealogy, the inclusion of both well-known figures like David and lesser-known ones like Boaz underscores the humble origins of the Messiah. Boaz's marriage to Ruth, a foreigner, also speaks to the universal nature of Jesus' mission to save not just Israel, but all humanity. The genealogy connects Jesus to key figures in Israel's history, confirming his identity as the promised Messiah. Luke's genealogy differs from Matthew's by tracing Jesus' lineage through Mary, focusing on Jesus' connection to all humanity rather than just the royal line. Luke emphasizes that Jesus' life and mission extend to the whole world, including Gentiles, much like Ruth's inclusion in the line of David prefigured the Messiah's outreach to all nations. The story of Ruth and Boaz reminds us that God's plans often unfold through ordinary, even unexpected people. Ruth, a foreigner, and Boaz, a humble landowner, are part of God's extraordinary plan to bring salvation to the world through Jesus. This should encourage believers to see their own lives as part of God's larger purpose, even when they feel insignificant or out of place. Finally, Ruth's inclusion in Jesus' genealogy highlights the inclusiveness of God's kingdom. The fact that a Moabite woman plays such a crucial role in the lineage of the Messiah shows that God's grace extends beyond ethnic and national boundaries. This challenges modern Christians to break down barriers of nationality, race, culture, and background, and to embrace the universality of the gospel. That's the lesson for this week. Have a great week.